You know, envy can lead to some pretty dark places. Just look at these boys who kidnapped a Miami millionaire, stole everything from him, and thought they got away with it. Just one problem, boys.
I survived.
Revenge for Real. All new next on ABC.
But in Miami, there was another kind of revenge. It was hot, violent, and inspired by envy and a betrayal. A story so compelling, Mark Wahlberg has turned it into a major Hollywood movie. These guys wanted what self-made millionaire Mark Schiller had. The houses, the cars, the beautiful wife. He'd been living the good life.
To other people's money. Yes.
Revenge for Real.
I lived a normal life.
Of course, normal is a relative term. In his safe, $14,000 in cash. $100K in his checking account. He owned a number of businesses, a successful accounting firm.
My accounting practice, it was a cash cow.
A nutritional supplement company. Plus, he had investments. A 34-story condominium tower. A restaurant. Oh yes, in the Cayman Islands, $500,000 in offshore accounts. And he had a friend, Jorge Delgado. He started out as a gopher, but after only 4 years, he'd worked his way up to become Mark's right-hand man.
It's the good stuff. Yeah.
Mark became a very good friend of George, taught him the business and kind of made him a man that could do something and support himself.
Jorge Delgado devoted his life to Schiller.
My wife would make him food. He was like part of the family.
And Schiller wanted to reward his loyalty. He'd made partner, and Delgado was grateful, of course. But it wasn't enough. He wanted more. His own deals, his own identity. He wanted to improve himself.
One more, let's go.
And all that started to come true for him at a place called the Sun Gym.
Good job, man. Right on.
Well, the Sun Gym was a place where people were pumping iron, and they were interested in breaking into the Miami scene.
But you don't have to be smart to be dangerous. And Lugo was soon filling Delgado's head with ideas. Not all of them 100% legal. Lugo had a criminal record for fraud, and Schiller says he told Delgado not to trust him.
All right. Hey, Mark.
When Delgado started getting into shady business deals with Lugo, Schiller says he finally cut him off, dissolving their partnership.
I'm not signing this.
I go, listen, last thing I'm going to tell you is if you stay friends with Lugo, you're going to end up getting in trouble.
Delgado was devastated. What was he going to do for money? He was back to square one.
Jorge Delgado feels at some point that he was shortchanged.
They told Delgado Schiller wasn't his friend.
What's up, buddy? What's on your mind? Why you look so
They
down?
told him Schiller had ripped him off.
We're here to help.
And they had a novel idea how to get what was owed to him.
I'm thinking, they say we kidnap him.
What drives a man to betray his mentor? Well, he was an ex-mentor now. An ex-mentor who had everything Delgado wanted. Well, Delgado needed a lot. And that was really all this was about.
Jorge Delgado's with his two buddies, and he's complaining.
I deserve more.
George needed his friend's money. After all, Schiller had cut him off. Wasn't Delgado entitled to a little revenge?
So Lugo gets a brilliant idea that we'll shake him down and then we'll let him go, and that's it.
Think about it.
That was the plan. The problem is it turned into a lot more than that.
I don't know what Lugo painted in his head that made him change, but from the time he met Lugo, he became a different person.
They say envy burns brightest in the dark.
They all wanted what they didn't have.
Come on, man, let's go.
Of course, not every plan emerges fully grown.
It looks like he's home.
They were so inept. They made attempt after attempt, hiding under blankets in his front yard, dressed as ninjas, to capture him, only to be thwarted by the headlights of an approaching car.
Abort! Abort!
And then they're running through backyards, yelling, abort, abort, like this is some kind of CIA mission.
Oh, there he is, there he is, there he is. Duck.
What was it like for Delgado, standing in the shadows while his associates torture his friend? How he must have suffered. But there were compensations.
That's huge, man.
The servant had become the master, and life was good. Back at the warehouse, they started forcing Mark to sign over his assets to them. Each of them had a role. Delgado provided the inside information.
There was some of it that clearly was just for pleasure.
All of a sudden I hear fire. Then again, fire. And 6 times they burned my arm. I mean, my arm was all burned.
And each day, another asset disappeared.
Sign right there.
They're putting documents in front of him and saying sign. Now he can't see. He's just putting his pen down, they're putting it on the paper, and he's signing his signature.
Days turned into weeks, and they realized, why stop at just a couple of $100,000? Why not take it all? 3 weeks have gone by, and Lugo, Doorbal, and Delgado are starting to realize they won't need Schiller much longer, and his presence in the world is starting to be inconvenient. There's just one last asset. Lugo, Delgado, and Doorbal know just how to dispose of Mark Schiller. They say every awakening is sweet, but some are sweeter than others. When Schiller's name didn't show up in the newspapers the next day, the gang realized he might not be dead.
Schiller, S-C-H-I-L-L. You might have checked that as a John Doe.
And in fact, they already were.
Mark has a mustache.
Mark Schiller is alive, and now he wants revenge. Just before he boards a plane to New York, far from the reach of the gang, he calls Jorge Delgado.
I'm gonna get you. Look behind you, I'm coming for you.
But meanwhile, the bad guys are still living large.
They wanted everybody to believe they were high rollers. They were very good-looking men, and women liked them.
There are toys to buy, girlfriends to impress, but they're already beginning to run low on funds. After all, they had that lifestyle to maintain. Now how could they possibly make more money? The Sun Gym gang was running out of money and looking for a new target.
Who owns that one, you know?
They were just about to find him. And now, a set of stalkers who were looking to pull off a repeat performance of what they'd done with Mark Schiller.
I got a call from Ed. Tells me that they did it again.
29213 18th Avenue South.
Where is he?
As they were being arrested, was each of them already starting to think about how to save his own skin?
Get your hands up!
I didn't know at that time whether any of the defendants would wind up testifying against the other defendants and cut some kind of a deal for themselves.
In fact, it would be Jorge Delgado who ultimately cuts a deal.
When you look at all, Danny Lugo was bad, you know, but Jorge Delgado, in my mind, was worse.
And a major Hollywood movie about these events is opening in April, starring Mark Wahlberg as Danny Lugo.
This is not your typical case. Then this is not your typical story with a happy ending. They almost got away with it.
Revenge for real.